Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Heart of Sports Midweek OTA. Jeff, we definitely couldn't wait until Friday to talk about this, what we got going on here, but we will have a huge show on Friday that we'll preview at the end of the show.
I missed something? There's been sports news?
I sent you a text message before I went to sleep last night, and you responded this morning.
I don't think you can repeat most of what I said.
So I'm just scrolling Twitter last night.
Actually, you might be able to since we're not doing this on air live. So.
Yes, not a care in the world. Yeah, we can curse because that was sort of my thing.
Yeah,
my reaction. That was what I sent to you, and that's what I put in our document that we practice off of.
No, this is going to test the Eagles organization.
So Deshaun Jackson put up a post over the weekend with a quote supposedly from Hitler that wasn't actually from Hitler. Posted some stuff from Louis Farrakhan.
Before you go past
a lot of
that,
anti-Semitic tropes.
Before you go past that, don't forget he appears to have thought it was from Hitler, and I think that's an important piece of information because regardless of where it came from, he made a point of pointing out something that he thought Hitler said. Go
ahead. This did not get attention for the first couple days. It sort of started to percolate yesterday morning is the first thing I saw out there in terms of when I look back in the timeline of when people were saying anything yesterday morning. We're doing this on Tuesday is when it seemed to start. Last night still wasn't much big. Philly Voice is the first larger site that I saw something on last night. Kyle Newback put something out. Now it's everywhere. TMZ, ESPN, Deshaun Jackson's anti-Semitic trope that he posted, the statement from the Eagles organization that they have spoken with Deshaun regardless of his intentions. He shared offensive and harmful, and it's absolutely appalling. Disappointed, blah, blah, blah. Take this matter seriously and committed to continuing to have meaningful conversations. May take the appropriate action. Deshaun Jackson has now put an apology out there.
It's not the first one, though.
I'm gonna give you a line from his apology. Now, look, I'm gonna be totally candid with you here. I'm colored by my history. Okay, my grandfather was in Dachau concentration camp. You don't play the Nazi card. It just doesn't. It doesn't work. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
He said in his apology, I just probably should have never posted anything that Hitler did because Hitler was a bad person and I know that.
Really? Then why did he post it? This isn't that difficult. If you see a quote from Hitler, unless you want to be associated with Hitler or unless you're a historian putting it into some type of historical context, you don't use it because you're going to be pegged as somebody who admires Hitler.
He said he was just trying to uplift African Americans and slavery and enlighten his people.
How?
He didn't intend. I don't know, man. I really don't know.
I just want to make this clear. He's a coward because he's issued what? How many apologies now?
Well, his first apology was, if you felt offended, I'm sorry, as if it's my fault that he decided to use Hitler as his frame. You could have used any frame in the world to stand up for your people and your race, and you chose Hitler as that frame. But apparently that's my fault from his first apology because I got offended by it.
And even if the quote wasn't from Hitler, the quote is anti-Semitic beyond belief. This is not even a close call.
Yeah, it's the Jews who did something to the black people, and it was. So look, we have had how many conversations in the last few weeks with people about trying to understand where people are coming from, and man, I don't get this.
All right. I find not only what he said offensive, I find the apology offensive. And what you just said that he was trying to do might be even more offensive. Because if he thinks that he is somehow uplifting one group of people by being anti-Semitic to another group of people. That's the exact opposite of what we should be doing. We should be lifting all boats. I saw actually, I think it was from Keith, he had retweeted something where it was Black Lives Matter, and it was some people think, and it was different shades of a fist.
The fists up above it, and it was really them just all on the same level.
Right. And so there's some people that think that the one fist above means that Black Lives Matter means trying that one's more important than the other. And then the next one was all shades, exactly the same level. And that's what's meant. And if Deshaun Jackson thinks that in this, especially with everything that is going on right now, that's the appropriate way for him to uplift any group of people, then he's repulsive. And I dare anybody to wear a Deshaun Jackson jersey in front of me and say that it's okay to root for a guy like that.
So generally, the responses you hear are he should be cut, he should be punished, or there is some that refer back to Riley Cooper and the punishment that he got when he made his racist comments at a concert at the time, and say that Deshaun shouldn't get anything longer than Riley Cooper got because that's what happened. Now, if you remember back at the time, Michael Vick came to Riley Cooper's defense and brought them all in on the team together on this. I don't see anybody commenting on anything right now other than apparently Carson Wentz talked to him. I don't know anybody else who has or hasn't.
Do we know what the conversation was?
I don't know. I thought I saw something that they had talked, but man, I'm dumbfounded. First of all, why is it necessary to even do this? But
that's just calling him stupid. It's not stupid.
Well,
this is hate.
I struggle with this. Speech. So you believe it's more than ignorance. It's lack of understanding what he actually did.
It's ignorance plus hate speech.
I get that it's hate speech, but this is where I struggle.
He intended to put somebody else down in order to raise himself up. It's the worst kind of human being to do that.
I don't know enough to call him a hateful person, though.
What he tweeted on Instagram was hateful.
Yes.
He knew it was hateful.
But if he
didn't, then he's just an idiot.
That's what I'm saying. Was it done out of definite malice, or was it done
I don't know.
Ignorance?
I can't go anybody's heart, but I know that I know very few people that I have run across in over half a century who use Hitler to raise themselves up. Very few. And those people are not part of my life. So I don't understand. Here's the biggest problem. That since this has happened, he has done nothing to explain what he did mean. I am so tired of people who say, I didn't mean it to offend you. Okay, Deshaun, here's your chance. Then tell us what you did mean. It is a cowardly thing to do to just say, I'm sorry if I offended anyone. Stop. What you should do is say, here is what I meant by this. But there is nothing he's going to come up with. So he's hiding behind, oh, well, I'm sorry if you were offended.
I think that, and I don't want to be defending him. Believe me, I don't want to be. But I think he's giving you an answer in this response saying, I was just trying to uplift African Americans and slavery and enlighten my people. I think that's his mind. That's not an explanation.
But that doesn't explain that quote. I want to know what he thought in that quote was going to somehow uplift any group of people, not to the detriment of another group of people.
So
isn't that partly what oppression is? Is that you put other people down in order to benefit yourself. And if he feels that in any way he was oppressed or any group of people he's associated with was oppressed, then you should be doubly empathetic to the cause of other people. And what you should be doing is trying to rise all boats together not stepping on somebody else in order to achieve whatever point you think you're going to make one group feel better.
So where does this story go next? It's obviously metastasized today in size.
I want to hear from Jeffrey. Here's what I want. I want to hear from Jeffrey Lurie. That statement's not enough.
Well, the Eagles put out a statement. I don't think you're going to see from Jeffrey Lurie.
No, I will bet you. Jeffrey Lurie is not going to sit quietly for this one. There's no way. There is no way he's sitting quietly for this.
You don't think he's going to try and hide behind it? They wanted Deshaun to make an apology. They'll give it a punishment to him. That'll be it.
I would lose a lot of respect for Jeffrey Lurie if he doesn't. I think that he's shown himself to a guy that whatever his belief is, he's willing to come out and justify it and say to people, here's the way I did. That's what he did with Michael Vick. As much as people like me completely disagree to this day that Michael Vick should have been brought onto this team, he stood up and said, this is why I'm doing it, and I'm going to do it. He didn't hide behind it. He didn't leave it to somebody else. And this is one of those situations where he needs to come out and he needs to explain what it is that he talked about with Deshaun. He doesn't have to go into word for word whatever he talks to him about, and what he's going to do and why he's going to do it, what the punishment's going to be, or what the sanction's going to be. And this whole equivalency, first of all, Riley Cooper should have been cut.
Exactly.
There's no question. So just because they screwed up before doesn't mean that now they just the punishment can't fit the crime anymore.
Riley Cooper should have been cut because he wasn't a good football player.
No, but
Riley Cooper should have been cut on top of it because of his actions at the time, which if we were on the air, we would have been saying on the air, because I know I was saying to people here. Like, I just don't – the rationalization stuff I can't stand. I don't know how much further it goes after this. I don't know what groups will take issue with it. He has made his statement. You don't find it satisfactory. I'd have preferred more.
All right. So I have a business question for you now. Okay. So now Nike has decided to step into politics. They've already done it when they took on the Colin Kaepernick issues. I apologize for my inability to speak.
It's difficult when we have a radio show and you can't speak.
That's right. But they then went a step farther and said, okay, we're taking a position regarding the Washington football team, and we're going to pull down every piece of clothing that says Washington's nickname. And it wasn't available on their site, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now I want Nike to take down Deshaun Jackson's jersey. And I know people are going to go, see, here you go. Here goes the slippery slope. No. What he's saying is just what Deshaun Jackson said is just as offensive. And for those reasons, I believe his jersey should be pulled off.
Do you think they will do that, though? I don't.
I don't even know if they've thought about it, but they should.
What's
the harm?
What is the appropriate punishment here? You said, Jeffrey Lurie come and talk about whatever punishment. Is it a suspension? Is it being cut? What is the appropriate?
If I was the owner,
you cut.
Well, no. The first thing I would do, because ultimately the goal is that we all learn to get along and respect each other, regardless of where we came from, regardless of what our views are at the current time. People have the ability to evolve. People have the ability to improve. That's what humanity is about. And so if I'm the owner of the Eagles, the first thing I'm doing is I'm saying, look, Deshaun, here's what's going on. Here's my history. Here's the history of the people that you decided to say this about. This is not, I'm sorry if you were offended. What you need to do is you need to learn why it is that you offended people.
Yes.
Right. Just like you're asking us to understand what you went through, you want to do that for the same people. So you go do that. And you're suspended until you go do that. And then you come back and we'll have a talk. And I'm going to see whether or not I can look inside your heart and I can tell whether or not you've learned something. And at that point, then as the owner, I'm willing to stand up for you, as long as you're willing to take the appropriate steps to understand and evolve. I think that's the answer. It's a complicated answer because there's going to be two normal sides to this every time something happens. Get rid of them or defend them. And there is a more complex answer because we are more complex beings.
Can I be a cynic for a second? I think it's all
can.
going to get lost in the COVID headlines, and there's going to be nothing further. I just think that the news cycle moves fast now, and they put a bookend on it with the Eagles saying that they were appalled and Deshaun saying he was sorry. And case closed. We're all good. Let's go back to something else. It's just where it seems to me. Look, I do public relations and communications. This is communications 101. You stepped in it. Okay. Where does the team stand? Where does the player stand? Have you said you're sorry? Okay. What are you going to do to make amends going forward now?
I'm hoping for something better.
That's PR 101 of crisis communications.
You may be completely right, but I'm hoping for something better.
All right.
And I'm probably hoping for something better because I do of the majority of owners in any league.
You respect Jeffrey Lurie.
I do. I think that he handles things and appropriately in most cases. Riley Cooper case was not one. Because I didn't feel that. I don't know about you. I didn't see anything where Riley Cooper was that. I don't want to use the word woke, but he didn't seem to evolve as far as I could tell.
I was colored by not feeling like he should have been on the roster to begin with.
Yeah, but like you're stating something that I don't think should be in the equation. You should not make your but you should not make your decisions based on whether somebody is good or bad at their profession. You need to have a moral code and decide whether or not they violate the moral code and keep the blinders on regarding their skill level.
I'm just saying that when I went into it with he shouldn't be on the team, it was an easier decision for me, I guess, at that time to say he shouldn't be on the team. He said something wrong, get rid of him. It seems like for people...
Yeah, but it's easier that you made that statement that it's easier because he sucked.
I think
That shouldn't be a factor.
But tell me it's not.
I'm not saying... Are you asking me
what it is or what it should be? I'm giving you the business side of this with how they do it, not the moral side of how they should do it. In the end, that this is a calculation of if the Eagles drafted better wide receivers or Deshaun had lost a step and they wanted to get rid of him, they'd use this as an excuse to get rid of him. If they don't have anybody else, they're going to use every effort to try and keep him. That's the bottom line about this.
Wait, didn't the Eagles just draft a busload of receivers?
They did, and none of them are going to be the starter on week 1. Deshaun is.
And none of them are quoting Hitler, as far as I know.
I understand that, but I'm just telling you that.
Okay, then I'm going to ask you a question. He's on the team on week 1. You're allowed to go to the stadium, and you have seats in a nice box somewhere. I'm going to make sure that you're nice and warm and happy, okay?
I'm not cheering for him. I'm cheering for the team.
No, let me finish, okay?
No, I don't like to finish.
So Carson Wentz, first play of the game, calls a play, takes the snap, throws a bomb, Deshaun Jackson catches it, scores a touchdown. What are you going to do?
I'm just going to watch.
You're going to sit on your hands?
I'm not going to cheer Deshaun.
Are you going to cheer the touchdown?
Well, I'll be honest. It depends what happens between now and then. If he actually does come out and do some of the things you're talking about and try and understand why I'm so bothered by it, why it's so hurtful, then it's a different story. If it just goes away and he's back on the field.
Okay, but it
was the same thing with Michael Vick.
No. Your scenario is that you believe the way it's going to play out is it's going to get lost and we're not going to hear anything. So I'm saying based on that assumption.
So I would go and I'd watch the game.
What are you going to do?
I would go, I'd watch the game. I'd be happy the Eagles scored, but I'm not going to cheer for Deshaun.
And what do you think the majority of the people in the stadium is if they're allowed in?
They're going to cheer for Deshaun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing when people in the stadium said Coop after Cooper. And I'm sure there's a segment of the fan base that were extremely offended that the whole rest of the fan base was out there supporting him. Just like there's a segment of the fan base that are going to be offended that people will continue to support Deshaun.
Mm-hmm.
You ringing?
I have no idea how that happened.
I just an explanation for our watchers since they're watching us, and there was a little blip
Did it just go black?
Like that's the thing.
Did the screen just go black?
For a second. There's the how I feel about it personally, and then there's the we're both adults that understand the business world at this point, and I
But
am
the business
shaped.
world is changing.
It is, but I just don't believe that in the end, it's going to move that fast right now that he's cut. I don't.
Okay, but what about my suggestion that Nike take down his jersey?
If his jersey stops selling, Nike will take it down.
Wait, why would you say that?
Because like, I don't think that Nike wants
Washington
to be
was making a ton of money from their merchandise, and Nike took it down.
I think that Nike didn't lead that charge. Nike followed other people into that battle. Nike would be leading the charge here, and Nike doesn't seem to want to do that unless it's a good ad campaign.
I don't think they are leading the charge. Just because they would be the one to do it, they're the ones that sell the merchandise. But they wouldn't be leading the charge. They already started that. They already started down this road.
Don't think they're going to. I just don't think they're going to. We'll see if you're right. We'll see.
I hope.
You have more hope for the NFL than I do. I've watched these guys fight about contracts long enough that
I didn't say the NFL. I said Nike.
Nike. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know where to go next. There's so much. We could stick and do a whole football show. Mahomes has a huge contract, but
which, by the way, did you look at the contract to see how it's structured?
Yeah, he gets paid like $30,000 against the cap this year.
Yeah. So here's the way that it's structured for the first 3 years. He gets this upcoming season a base salary of $825,000 and a total cash payment of $10.825. Next year, his base salary is $990,000 with a roster bonus of $21 million.
It's all bonuses,
right? But so the first 3 years, he's making less than Teddy Bridgewater. There's nobody that should cry over him. It's almost a $500 million over his 10-year deal. But the people who think that this is such a horrible contract for the league or for the team,
it's a great contract.
You're wrong. Team. Because
wait till you see Dak Prescott's contract. That'll be a bad contract for a team.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. What Kansas City has done is they
set the market.
Other teams.
Yeah.
Right? Because Mahomes is going to be worth it. And he's still going to be in his prime at the end of this contract. It's only 10 years. So he'll be, 35 at the time? Somewhere in that range? And I will bet you that if somehow we're back to normal and we can all go to games and everything recovers, that by the time he gets to the second half of this contract, that will be a still really good contract, but it won't be insane.
It won't be half your head is cut off.
Okay, it won't be crazy.
We're on video, so I want to make sure you're in the picture.
All right.
People need to get the full Jeff Cohen.
Great.
You're making these great points that have to be able to see you as you make them. No, I thought it was a great contract.
I have a screen behind me, and it has the statistics on it, so that's what I'm trying to look at.
I think it makes the Eagles locking in Carson Wentz for his contract that much smarter.
Yeah.
And you'll see it when Dak goes to sign now, because this is the market.
And by the way, anybody in Philadelphia that ever thought Andy Reid doesn't know what he was doing, on top of winning a Super Bowl, keep in mind that he had Alex Smith at the time, and I believe he moved up to snap up Pat Mahomes.
Yep.
And people wondered what he was doing. And Pat Mahomes has one of the richest contracts in the history of professional sports.
Sports together.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, we know return dates for all of the Philadelphia sports right now. Tomorrow morning, we have the Union opening against NYCFC.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, we will have Coach Curtin on the show on Friday to talk all about life in the bubble.
Right.
How game one was. He will lead off the show at 4:05. We know that the Eagles start training camp July 28th. The Sixers restart their season.
We know that they're scheduled to start.
Everything is scheduled. So I'm going to go back to my wrestling days. Okay.
Uh-huh.
For our listeners, our watchers, I watched pro wrestling, and they always advertised with card subject to change, which means they could tell you it's going to be the best thing ever and throw the scrub out there instead because they told you card subject to change. So everything is subject to change that we say right now about scheduling. Okay.
All right.
Let's just stipulate that.
Next show, see if you can put a chyron on the bottom that says that.
Subject to change.
Yeah, that's right.
I might be able to add it in this show here. Right. I may do that. Would you be impressed if I
I would be very impressed by that.
Okay, I may have to do that.
What I might be worried about is if you actually put it there as I'm talking and it says co-host subject to change.
What about if I just block your face with it? Just put it right over.
People would be happy with that.
It would be better. Keep you half off screen, half blocking your face.
All
right.
Feel free to superimpose somebody else on there.
Sixers restart the preseason August 1st. Flyers start NHL qualifying August 1st. And the Phillies have their season opener at Citizens Bank Park against Miami on July 24th.
So nobody there but the Fanatic.
The Phillies schedule came out yesterday. Your initial thoughts on what you saw, and then we'll run through it real fast. Anything?
They have the most difficult schedule in Major League Baseball. It's simple as that.
10 games against each NL East team, 5 road trips, 2 of which will be 8 games. 41 of the 60 games come against teams that had a winning percentage over 500 last season. 20 of those games are on the road. My goodness.
Who are they playing that doesn't have a realistic chance of having a better than 500 record? The Marlins?
The Orioles and the Marlins.
That's it.
Everybody else, the Rays,
Atlanta's very good, although Atlanta
just
found out that Felix Hernandez will not be coming, and Nick
Markakis and Freddie Freeman has COVID right now.
Right, but he may be fine by then. Just like we're hoping that Aaron Nola is fine by then.
You talk about the Braves. That's probably the Phillies' worst part of their schedule. The last 2 weeks of August, where they have a 3-series road trip. They play the Nats and the Braves 13 times in 14 games.
By the way, the Cole Hamels led Atlanta,
which is weird. In that stretch from August 25th to September 13th, they'll play 20 straight games, no off day. That's a tough schedule. A lot of early games, though. They have no game that starts after 7 p.m. They have 7 1 p.m. games, 2 3 p.m. games, 4 p.m., a bunch of 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. starts. So no late night starts.
With everything that's going on with the virus, that's actually a very smart thing to do. Because now you have the summer, you have kids that can watch. You don't have to worry about staying up late because all these kids are home. Most of them are not going to camp this summer. And you have a chance to get a younger audience. Then again, there'll probably be NBA games at the same time. And then they're screwed.
Baseball could have had the 4th of July last Saturday all to themselves.
Yep.
They could have done that. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Missed opportunity. There was some concern with Aaron Nola coming into camp later. He had been exposed to somebody with COVID and was staying home. It looks like Adam Hazley had like a false test or a conflicting test, but he's there now. They do still have some players out with COVID, and we are starting to see the Zach Wheeler is abandoning his team, Jeff. Shocking.
I just don't get it. We've talked about this ad nauseum, and it's just not enough because now we have sports writers getting into this, saying that these people are abandoning their teams. No, they're not. This is a unique, once in a lifetime event, and if people don't want to risk their own health and the health of their families, including their newborn children, I don't know what else you need to be convinced that sports isn't as important, even though we all love it and we do shows on it. We appreciate the fact that some things are more important. And how could you say to anybody that they are selfish or abandoning their teammates if they choose their child?
But not everybody feels that way. We saw some stories, and I messaged you back
but I don't get
it. There is a segment of the fan base, and I told you the last few weeks that as people realize this is coming, you're going to see this reaction from people. Not everybody. Some people will understand and support him. Some
So
people.
let me ask you a question. Do you think that the writers who are now deciding to jump on this are doing this because they really believe it, or is this just all clickbait at this point? Is this just to rile people up?
Probably a mixed bag. I'm sure that there are some people that really believe it. They're like, baseball's back and he gets paid. He has a job. He has to go to work to do his job because that's what work requires. And that's what it is. There is a thought process of that. I don't have that thought process, but there are a lot of people who have that.
Why do most people work? Because they need to support their families, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a unique group of people who really love what they do. You and I, what we're doing right now, we love what we do. But the fact is, most of us work to support our families. If they can support their families, why would they then risk the families they've worked so hard to support?
Because I need to be able to watch TV, Jeff.
You can still watch.
Come on, Jeff. I need to be able to see this. Don't you know?
There are still enough baseball players that you can still watch.
I'm glad that you can see the video to see the sarcasm that's dripping out as I say this, so it's not lost. You know how I feel.
Wait till the video when we're in studio together and I have my hands like right there.
Look, you know how I feel, and it became a show topic each week. We talked about this last week leading into the birth of my son, Adam. Mm-hmm. It was, will I be there this week? You might be doing a show with the board op. You might be doing a show with one of the guests. I may just not be there because Sarah's going to go into labor and I have other priorities. And you totally understood.
Because that's what life is about.
And when my family was safe and secure and my child was home, mm-hmm. I was back doing the show with you.
Yeah, and let's face it, things are still not back to normal. And you and I are talking to each other through our headsets and our iPads and computers because we don't have to go back to the studio and we don't have to create additional risk. Zach Wheeler's not in that position. And I will tell you, one of the writers who wrote this story, I actually had an exchange with and said they are not abandoning their teammates. And the response back was something, I don't remember the exact response, I don't have it in front of me, but that they should do the same thing the NHL should do and just distance yourself from your family. I'm not distancing myself from the child that I just had who's not going to have me around for months at the beginning of his life. We already got to the point where we now accept the fact that there's paternity leave and maternity leave in sports, which was a growth factor because I remember when Randall Cunningham had this discussion and people were up in arms that he was going to take time off or miss a game because of this. We've grown as a society to understand how important our families are and that everybody's entitled to this. And this is another step in this evolution for most of us. Or you can stay in caveman days and you can sit there and keep saying that people should risk their lives when they don't need to.
I'm not going to call it caveman days. I'm not going to ascribe anything to somebody. I'm just going to say that I think you're missing the boat if at this point you're going with stick to sports. That's not the place to be right now.
It just doesn't make sense to me why you think that why you're judging somebody else on their decisions based on love and understanding and taking care of their family. That's just not the thing to criticize.
I think he's choosing not to abandon his team at home is what he's doing. And good on Zach Wheeler for doing it. And I'll continue to say that for anybody who listens. Do I want to see him pitch on the mound? Absolutely. Do I want to make sure that he gets to hold his baby after it's born, first baby? I do. Maybe call me soft, whatever you want to call me. That's what it is. So that's what it's.
Softy.
That's okay. I'll definitely have the music in for next week's show.
Oh, so. Great.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to up the production value with a soundboard or something as we start to do this. Okay. Now that they can see us on video, I'm gonna have to get backdrops and funny faces and stuff like that. Why don't you talk a little bit about? We talked about our first guest on the show on Friday, Jim Curtin, calling from Orlando from the bubble after the first game for the Union. Why don't you talk about our other guest for the show as well, Jeff? We got a packed show.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have on Michael Collins, ESPN golf commentator. So for people who haven't seen him, he is knowledgeable about golf, and there's a lot going on with golf, even if you're not a golf fan. The stuff going on with Bryson DeChambeau, who last year was this skinny, science-using golfer who didn't follow convention. He would put his golf balls in water to figure out displacement, and he made all his golf clubs the same length at one point, which, if you don't know, most golf clubs are different lengths. And this year he decided that he was going to turn from skinny Bryson DeChambeau to totally jacked Bryson DeChambeau, eating a ridiculous amount of food and getting his body. And if you watch him swing, it's just this controlled explosion now. And he hits the ball ridiculously long. It's like John Daly lengths. And he won a tournament last week. So he's now the guy, and he's actually favored for the 3 majors this year. He is the odds-on favorite to win all 3 majors at the current time. And yet, all of that going on, he also kind of acted like a jerk.
He had an altercation with a cameraman who he said was following him too closely. I thought that was the point of the cameraman.
Yes, so I think we'll have a lot to
for
talk.
A cameraman, you have one job.
Exactly.
To follow someone and get the shot. And the guy who was in the shot got mad about it.
And by the way, there's usually somebody in his or her ear that is saying, follow that person, especially if they're the leader. Yes. Or have made themselves into the spectacle. It's not like Bryson DeChambeau.
Lord have turned to you and decided that he will talk to you now.
Right. So it makes no sense to me. But on top of that, for people who don't know, Michael's also a somewhat local guy and a Philly sports guy. So we're planning on having some fun with him on Friday.
Lots to talk about. Jeff, we hit the air live at 4 p.m. on Friday. They can follow us on Twitter at The Heart of Sport. They can subscribe. Tell them where they can find us, Jeff.
Are you kidding? It's everywhere. You can find us on Apple iTunes podcast. You can. I talk to my Alexa and just ask it to play Heart of Sports, and it does it. Hopefully,
it's kind of
cool now. Yeah. You can find us on our website, and most of all, you can find us on the radio on 610 ESPN.
We will be back with everybody on the air on Friday, and then we'll be back for the midweek OTA next week. Thanks so much for joining us.